So welcome everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have all of you here on board with us. We got a very big turnout, which is really awesome. Sorry about the few glitches in the beginning where we were sort of letting in and out people a bit earlier than we should have. But we're here, we're ready to start. So really appreciate you all attending. So this event is our very first AIR webinar. And the reason that we use the word AIR, obviously the term or the acronym AIR, is to attract, impress, and retain. So obviously this is a theme that we'd like to utilize for this webinar because it's quite important when it comes to guests that we ensure that we attract, impress, and retain. So our intro music as well, as we just started the webinar, is from Ananya, which is Just Hold On. And that's really sort of a theme for all of us hoteliers who are out there right now, who are all in the industry right now, to really hold on, stay strong, so that we can, get out of this situation that we're currently in. So my name is Praveen. I'm the co-founder of Vinsa. We provide hotel software to over 1,000 hotels in India and overseas as well. So I will be your host this afternoon. So this afternoon, we have a really exciting lineup of panelists and speakers who, a lot of them are brave to be here and, just amidst the floods in Delhi and things like that happen now. So we're so happy that everyone could join us. So the webinar was put together to really focus on a subject that wasn't as frequently discussed. There was a lot of talk around recovery, a lot of talk around operational hygiene and revenue aspect of things, but we didn't really have many speakers speaking about how do we bring the guests back? What are the strategies that we can use to bring the guests back to the hotels, and what do guests look for, when they actually are looking for hotels? So this sort of prompted us to put this together and more importantly, involve I think a travel blogging couple, who are actually a part of our panel today. And they're really going to give us a guest perspective of what we can actually expect from guests when they're actually ready to travel, ready to come out. What are they going to be looking for? So that's really they're going to be the theme of the event today. So we'll kick off with some presentations, starting with STR and then Booking.com and then Star. And this will be followed by a panel discussion where I'll be asking some questions of the panel, comprising of some really good hoteliers who are actually with well-established domestic chains here in India, in addition to the travel blogging couple, the gypsy couple, Rishabh and Nirali. So the hoteliers comprise of both leisure and corporate segments, so it'd be good to get a perspective from both these segments, including wellness. So we're really looking forward to that discussion as well. So we also request your participation in some polls we'll be running. So at the start of each of the panel speakers' question time, we will be putting out a poll. So we'd really love for you to, respond to the poll so that will help also guide the panelists when they're speaking to react accordingly based on the input that you provide them. So appreciate your input when the polls actually pop up on your screen. So towards the end of the panel discussion, we'll actually have a Q&A session. So we want to try and have as long a Q&A session as possible. So please start sending your messages through the chat box. Any questions you have that you feel you want to ask the panel during the, sessions, please ask them in the chat box. We'll filter them out and we'll get to as many of them as possible. For those we don't get to, we will definitely make a note of who asked them and we'll get back to you with an answer from one of the panelists. After the Q&A session, this is probably for the first time we're going to do this. We're going to do a networking session, which obviously I've never seen happen so far in India in any of the webinars I've attended. So in the networking session, we will be splitting you up using the group, the Zoom breakout rooms feature. So I will go through that breakout rooms feature towards the end of the Q&A session, just to give you some instructions on how best to utilize that. So thank you very much once again for attending. So let's kick off. I'll just make sure that Vidhi is here before I hand it over to her. I believe I thought I saw her in the waiting room. Vidhi, are you there?
Hello, Praveen. Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'll just introduce you. So without further ado, obviously, I'm very pleased to introduce Vidhi from STR. So as everyone knows, STR is really the best in the business when it comes to analytics and data. So Vidhi is here to give us a very good insight into some of the data that they've been capturing. So over to you, Vidhi.
Sure. Thanks, Praveen.
So just get your screen up.
Great. So thank you, Praveen, for having me. My name is Vidhi Godiawala, and I'm the Business Development Manager for STR in Central and South Asia, a CoStar Group company. Just a moment. Yeah. We are the global leaders when it comes to accommodation performance benchmarking for the hotel industry. We work with almost 70,000 hotels across 180 countries, where we collect data from these hotels, and that represents about 9.1 million, around 9 million rooms on our platform. Now, the pandemic has obviously impacted economies and businesses all over the world, and the agenda for today is going to really be to understand where we are at in that pandemic and where the global hotel industry is in its recovery cycle. Out of all the industries, of course, COVID has impacted travel the most, and the impact to hotels has been unprecedented. But where we are in the recovery cycle is what I'll be covering off globally, and what can we expect for the rest of 2020, and what are the factors that are going to shape India's recovery. Just a quick word before I proceed that STR only provides data and facts, and we do not give any advisory on rates. So where is really the world in the recovery cycle? So as you can see, the slide, right? These are the wheels of recovery, or the eyeballs of recovery, as we call them at STR. This is really where the global hotel industry was at the peak of the crisis, when hotel closures were ringing in all over the world, starting, in the month of February with China, and then the rest of the world. Each dot over here really represents an STR sub-market across the world, and the color of each of these dots represents the performance of that STR sub-market. So these wheels are done now, as you see them, in the month of April, in the month of May, are dominated by the red dots, which are representing occupancy under 25%. And in fact, in most of these markets, occupancy was in single digits during this time. But of course, over the last 3-4 months, many markets have gradually opened up, starting with China, the US, Pacific, and Europe. And recovery in the hotel industry has begun taking shape in these markets. And as you can see now, over the many weeks from May, the representation of red has reduced gradually, and we're seeing a lot more of blue, a little bit of green sprouting up in some markets, indicating some initial occupancy recovery for hotels in those regions. Now, hotels have been opening up slowly, and of course, the summer months have drawn crowds to hotels in many of these global regions. And in fact, the month of August globally started off fairly well. China, of course, is leading the way with green shoots coming through in the month of March, and positive trends continuing for that market since March. And in this slide, in fact, you will notice that each market or each country has 2 reporting occupancy numbers. The STR methodology, which measures the total potential occupancy of a market, is by using the available supply to capture the real demand. However, given the fact that there were so many temporary hotel closures across the world, we've also been calculated the economic occupancy, which uses the total market supply. So, for example, if you see for the hotel occupancy using the standard methodology for Europe is 41%, but its economic occupancy, when you consider the total potential supply for that region, stands at 30%. Similarly, for the US as well, standard occupancy is at 48% and the economic occupancy is 45%. The rest of the world too is slowly coming back, but these are the major markets which are driving growth globally, with Central and South America still struggling because of the impact and the spread of the virus. Over the months, of course, we have seen demand trends that have shaped up in many of these global markets that I just talked about. However, the virus also has come back all over the world, and the potential second waves show some imminent impact to this recovery. So if we look at the second wave, and when we look at the other global markets, China, which was the first market that collapsed, the hotel market, but it was also the first to recover. Hotel occupancy was growing consistently in that region, and we in fact started seeing emerging day-of-week patterns, with hotels really showing comparatively higher occupancy on weekdays, over weekends indicating some kind of business pickup as well. And we also saw leisure demand come back, especially in the regional markets. But the second virus outbreak in Beijing slowed down this growth, and it took 4 weeks. And it took 4 weeks for China to recover and actually start growing back. Currently, the hotel occupancy for China is almost touching 65%. The United States as well, has 50 different states, 50 different rules, and hotel occupancy has recovered to 50% from its absolute low levels when the pandemic hit. But again, they too had, a bout of second waves which came through, and the US took maybe a week or two longer than China to come back and start climbing up, which is now plateaued at 50%. The Middle East has stagnated its occupancy growth at 40%, and that's been for almost more than 3 months, but of course, because of its reliance on international travel. And Europe, on the other hand, the occupancy for hotels in Europe has bounced back up to 40%, and that's at the back of leisure demand, which has come back strongly in the summer months. However, again, in Europe, second waves and cluster outbreaks have impacted the initial recovery for hotels in the region, and we're seeing this as a real risk, and the fact that the virus still hasn't really gone back. While the risk and the uncertainty continues, the hotel industry is going to continue being challenged with it. But what we saw in China, second waves of the virus, like what we saw in China, second waves of the virus can be beaten where countries do have the right systems in place. The other thing that we've seen is one trend, which is actually consistently seen across the recovery cycle that we've seen globally, is that regional markets are outperforming the main markets. In Europe, in the US, in China, Australia, we've seen tier 2 cities and regional cities really drive the occupancy growth. Now, it's important to remember that air travel continues to be subdued, and drive destinations, coastal regions are attracting this leisure demand. Boutique hotels as well in smaller regions have been able to pull a crowd for staycation and weekend staycation businesses as well. But the fact is that the virus is a bigger threat in more densely populated and main markets, which, the risk still remains higher over there. And hence the regional destinations are taking their pie of that business. So what is it that can we really expect in terms of demand, or what are we seeing in the second half of 2020? Now, STR's Forward Star data, or the Business on Books data, shows that a lot of hotel demand in Europe was due to the summer, which is now coming to a close. Forward occupancy for the next 12 months across Europe is between 5 to 10%. And the virus is also relapsing in markets such as Turkey, France, which are seeing record high cases, and the uncertainty in these markets continues. In fact, there hasn't been any significant pickup as well in these markets outside the short lead time. And what we've seen is that short window bookings are really dominating most of these markets' demand. So if you can see, there's almost zero pickup starting September 2020. And it goes right into 2021, where we are seeing some kind of pickup coming back for the hotels in those markets in Europe. Similarly, in fact, even in Australia, in Sydney and Melbourne, the forward booking data is hovering around the 10% mark, and no significant business on books is seen. In fact, we're seeing cancellations which are outweighing the bookings. And again, over here in these markets, spontaneous bookings is what we're noticing is driving demand. And it's obviously bound to be that way, given that there is no clarity of what really, the future beholds. And for India, in fact, STR is launching Forward Star data very soon. So if you all are keen to understand how the markets in India perform for Forward Star and forward-looking data, please feel free to get in touch. Now coming closer to home, if we quickly talk about the Indian Ocean, the Maldives, which is obviously a destination that thrives on international visitors, 95% of hotels in this region were closed until July because of the lockdown and the pandemic. Hotel occupancy for the country was in single digits, in fact, at the lower spectrum of single digits. And since the island nations has opened its international borders in July, it has attracted, I think, more than 3,000 guests. And because of that, we can see that, the occupancy is inching up steadily. But along with that, even the new cases have started rising with these overseas visitors. So how the Maldives will really contain the spread of the virus and simultaneously continue recovering is something we need to watch out for. Another market, which is Sri Lanka, dependent on international travelers. They've not yet opened their international borders, however, and they've managed to restrict the virus locally. So as you can see, that there's strong and evident weekend leisure occupancy spikes which are noticed, and that's coming from the domestic leisure and staycation business, which is showing positive trends. And Sri Lanka as a travel destination more reliant on international travelers, the further recovery of this will depend and will shape up depending on how and when the country really opens up its international borders. Now, if we speak about India, where really is India in the recovery cycle? What are our domestic demand drivers, and when can we really expect to come back to 2019 performance levels? So just to give you a quick snapshot, this is India pre-COVID. Each dot over here again, it represents a property or a hotel in STR census database, and the color represents the performance of that STR submarket. And as you can see, this is before the pandemic hit. Demand growth in India was outpacing supply growth, for 6 years straight, and all India RevPAR growth was highest. And that was the highest that we've seen in many, many years, with almost all Indian markets growing fairly positively. And the growth was coming from strong domestic demand and increasing international demand as well. However, the lockdown happened, and this is what happened with all hotels, where closures started ringing in, and occupancy was down to single digits for the entire region. This is our current affairs. This is where we stand at currently. STR now works with 1,400 hotels in India, but 30% of our sample of STR sample in the region still remains closed. Hotels are gradually opening up, and it's all being driven depending on how the virus is being contained in each of those regions. So if we really look at the recovery graph, or what the performance of the occupancy graph for India looks like, this is what it is for India, and where again over here, each dot really represents an STR submarket in India, and the virus is still spreading in the country, and each region is dealing with it independently. So there, of course, are multiple quarantine regulations and state border rules that has added to confusion to the travelers. And the All India hotel occupancy is currently, in fact, hovering about at 23%. Where is really some of this growth that you're seeing on these borders? It's coming from the main major markets, which is, of course, Mumbai, New Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, Hyderabad, which are leading occupancy growth. Now, this is at the back of hotels being used as quarantine facilities, and a lot of the COVID business, which has fueled this growth in these markets. Corporate and leisure demand has not really picked up in the manner that the industry would have anticipated. And that really still remains to be, the main driver for demand in India. However, in the last few weeks, we have seen a small shift in demand on ground. While the repatriation and the COVID business still continues to be the largest share of demand for hotels, some of the regional destinations are seeing leisure demand just limp back. So the weekend spikes are erratic, as you can see, but it's taking shape as we really see that last weekend of this slide, where all the markets are seeing some kind of spike, especially Uttarakhand, Rajasthan, Gujarat, the regional Tamil Nadu area, all seeing a bit small, but some kind of weekend leisure trends taking shape. The other thing which I would like to highlight, is before I summarize, is that what are the kinds of demands that India has seen, and what drives demand in India. 2019 saw group demand or group business outperform transient business, and as you can see, weekday occupancy for India is far higher than the weekend occupancy. And when we consider most of these major markets, and these getaways, they have higher weekday demand, which is coming from corporates, from the IT sector. While, of course, there still is leisure demand in the regional markets and on the weekends, group business still is the heavy metal for India. And this segment really recovering will depend on how soon MICE business picks up and when corporates are really back on the road. The other thing is about the Mumbai forecast, which I'd like to highlight, is that we are projecting occupancy for this city, even though, you know, the supply growth is not a lot in the city. We are expecting this city to return to 2019 levels only in 2023. Of course, it's important to understand that the situation is very fluid and it continues evolving. But Mumbai as a market is driven by corporate business, keeping in also mind the, you know, the economic conditions, the uncertainty still that's surrounding the virus, and the corporates which continue embracing work from home. You know, we anticipate that it might take some more time for this market to recover, but this is of course projected, and the situation is fairly fluid. So we do hope that it changes for the better. And I'll just like to quickly summarize, you know, the consumers are still reacting to the warning signs of the new restrictions. So globally, there are still plenty of struggles, you know, the virus relapse, uncertainty around the cure and the vaccine. The acceleration in hotel demand is proportional to the virus spreading. There's no clarity on, you know, the second waves continuing and the impact that it has. There are also dark clouds on the global economic outlook. In fact, Virgin Atlantic, you know, has filed for bankruptcy in the US. The UK has officially entered recession. So there is a little bit to be worried about. And what's going to be critical and key is that traveler confidence, which is going to shape that recovery. Air travel is going to continue being subdued for some time, and drive destinations will continue being the mode of transport, and regional destinations we see will be the driving factor for hotel performance and hotel growth. When we look at India, the one positive for the region at this time around when it starts recovering is that there's going to be much limited supply, which will aid in recovery, which was not the case in 2008, you know, when we were coming out of the global financial crisis. The demand was strong. However, all the new demand that was coming into the market back then was met with the absolute, you know, new supply that was coming in across the region. So this time, the limited supply will aid in our recovery. MICE and corporate business, of course, we feel, you know, will remain subdued for some time, just given the uncertainty that there is. And domestic leisure, as we saw, has just about begun, you know, gradually recovering, and we see that trend will continue depending on how, you know, the virus evolves in each state, in each region. And I think the most important thing at this point for all hoteliers is to keep in mind is that to track these demand segments as they start recovering, and use that information to really make these informed revenue management decisions. Thank you. Praveen?
Thank you very much, Vidhi. Wonderful statistics. I think a lot of us got a bit excited seeing the curves sort of start, you know, squiggling their way up earlier on this month. So that's a very good sign for the leisure segment, I suppose, especially the hotels who are here. So really appreciate your input, and thank you so much. So over to our next speaker for the day. Obviously needs no introduction. The company name, that is Booking.com. Everybody knows who they are. So I have Biren here, who's actually just going to give us an idea or an OTA perspective, I suppose, from what exactly the big guys are actually doing from an OTA perspective to drive the guest revival, and as well as share some of his thoughts on where things are at the moment. Biren, you there? Over to you. You just got to unmute yourself and you're good to go.
Cool. So there is a storm brewing up in my hometown. So that's why the lighting is not the best. And because of some technical issue, I'm forced to join from my mobile phone. So apologies in advance in case you are not able to see me properly, or if there is a voice lag. So good afternoon, everyone. Due to a technical issue, for joining from my phone. So thanks, Vidhi, for all the insights. I'm going to share my thoughts on few emerging trends that we are observing globally. Let me set the stage by sharing a few insights from our Q2 earnings call, just to give you a sense of how grim the situation actually was in Q2. Our Q2 revenue was 630 million, an 84% drop year on year, and our gross bookings were down by 91% in Q2. If you have to compare this with 2009 recession and 9/11, the business was impacted just by 20 to 25% during that time. But here we are talking about 85, 86% business impact. So which is huge. So let me share a few travel trends that we are observing, not just in India, as well as globally. So first is around domestic travel. Domestic room nights represented over 70% of our newly booked room nights in both Q2 and July, which was significantly up from 2019, which was roughly around 45%. So Europe and the United States had the highest contribution to the improved domestic business as far as domestic business is concerned. And based on our internal research, 61% people said they would do a domestic leisure trip, excuse me, compared to just 6% respondents who said they would do a domestic business trip in the country. So this clearly shows that the leisure domestic would be the first one to revive compared to the domestic business clientele. Domestic and more localized regional travel would likely recover before international travel, as it remains easier and safer to travel locally. Second trend that we are observing is around road trips and drive to destinations. So travelers are less likely to travel by airplanes, and their initial trips will be to nearby safe destinations or places within driving distance and in the safety of their own car. So across all markets, a preference to travel by one's own car increases month over month. For example, in US, in the month of June, when we conducted our survey, 50% of the people said that they would prefer to travel by their own car. So that's why it is extremely important that hotels which are operating in the vicinity of large cities, they develop their marketing strategies to capture the people around city who can drive from their homes to their accommodations. Third trend that we are observing is around outdoors. So in addition to short-haul domestic travel, outdoor destinations are more appealing to travelers. So beach trips, natural destinations are preferred as a way to avoid crowded places. So 66% of people who we surveyed said that they would prefer traveling with their partners, and only 19% would actually prefer to travel with their children. So there is a strong preference to travel with your partner and avoid family travel for time being, unless there is vaccination is until there is a vaccination is in place. Staycation is another trend that we are observing. So staycations are also becoming a popular trend where people can escape the pressure of work and daily routine and recharge in their own city after an intense period of lockdown and working from home. Fourth trend that we are observing is around second city travel. Basically, people want to avoid overcrowded areas and want to travel to lesser known destination where there is less tourist volume. So this will benefit cities which are not the number one tourist destinations, and cities which are slightly away from the crowded areas would be preferred by customers when they travel after COVID. Another trend that we are observing is around sustainable travel. So from our research undertaken earlier this year, we saw that travelers are becoming more and more conscious about environmental impact. And 96% of Indian travelers identified sustainable travel as an important reason to pick up a hotel, while 76% said they were more determined to make sustainable choices. So this trend will continue and intensify after COVID, because people are looking to travel more responsibly. And this is something that hotels can capture in case they feel they are doing any thing related to sustainability. Another trend that we are observing globally is around the role of technology. COVID has accelerated the adoption of technologies across industries, and our industry cannot stay behind as far as adoption of technology is concerned. So technology will continue to play an integral role in creating a seamless, frictionless experience, which is tailored for every customer. So technologies like AI, machine learning, data science will continue to empower companies so that we can customize our offering based on personal preferences. So more personalized recommendations are something that customers of today are looking forward to. Another thing that we are observing is around alternate accommodations. So if I had to give you some numbers in Q2, for example, which is from April to June, alternate accommodations represented roughly 40% of all the new bookings that we received, which is a big increase from 25% that we saw in 2019. So alternate accommodations would include your bed and breakfast, apartment, villas. So there is an increased appreciation for such accommodations from customers. So people who are operating in alternate segments will have slight advantage over the traditional mode of accommodations. Another trend that we are observing is around mobile. So mobile bookings, particularly through apps, continue to gain share in the second quarter and also into July. So these are few trends that we are observing globally. And along with that, there are few things that I would like to emphasize. You all are probably aware about these things already, but still wanted to emphasize because they are becoming extremely important. And first thing to emphasize here is around flexibility. So flexibility is the most important element when traveling in COVID times. So guests are looking for full transparency about policies, conditions, and expect a smooth experience if travel plans change. Second thing around this is cleanliness. We all know how important cleanliness and hygiene have become. And guests also want to be reassured that cleaning standards are met, as this is one of the most important criteria to pick up a place to stay. And last thing is around reliability. So how can one make sure that latest information about the property is displayed to guests? There have been so many lockdowns in India, weekend lockdowns, night curfews. So we need to provide the most latest information to our customers. So just to summarize, guests are eager to travel again, but given the fact that vast majority saw their travel plans cancelled, and there is still a high concern about COVID-19, they are approaching traveling with mixed feelings. So 47% of guests who we surveyed felt confident to travel again if the right measures are in place, while 53% said that they would rather postpone their trips. So there is still that mixed feelings as far as traveling is concerned. So to end on a positive note, in July, we reached slightly positive year-on-year growth for overall domestic newly booked room nights. I see this with a bit of hope, light at the end of the tunnel. So travel is something which is very innate to human beings, and we expect travel to bounce back once the consumer confidence is restored. So this is all from my side. So thank you everyone for listening to me. Over to you, Praveen.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Biren. I think it was good that you highlighted some very interesting points to do with technology as well. You know, that how important a role technology is going to play in all of this. And that's something that we as a tech company as well personally experience, you know, throughout the entire crisis. You know, there's a big drive for technology offerings. So yeah, that in addition to obviously the sustainability aspect and the fact that at least half of us are willing to travel right now, which is probably a good starting point. So really appreciate the insight from an OTA. Thank you so much. So leading on to the next speaker. So we have Star, Rajesh from Star. So Star is really one of the most widely used channel managers in India. And that is something that obviously is very interesting, and it's good to see that in addition to the OTAs and the other analytics, we can also hear about other perspectives about how we can actually attract guests to the hotel. So I'll hand it over to you, Rajesh. Go ahead.
Thank you, Praveen. Very good afternoon to everybody. Thank you, Virendra, for the technology tip. I could hug you, but social distancing and this webinar restricts me from hugging you. So I'll just quickly move on to what I'm going to share with you. Star is a New Zealand-based company, and our head office is in Auckland. We provide software to more than 10,000 hotels worldwide. That's me. I'm going to be a little fast, so please excuse me because Praveen has threatened me with a deadline to be fast. So I'm just going to be as fast as possible. He asked me to speak about distribution, and I mean no rewards for guessing that you have to keep your fists open, try to get bookings from wherever you can. Don't make the mistake of just leaning on one channel or the other. Please keep yourselves open and try to get bookings from wherever you can, whichever aspect that you can. And they've already said it. I think domestic travelers are going to peak. We saw how Sri Lanka happened over the weekend stays. I presume that's going to happen to India very soon. Weekends properties will be full. Even cities, I presume, have a real swing where we see, corporate cities, facing a challenge for weekends. I think it's going to reverse down during COVID. Families that are tired of being at home are going to go to the hotels and stay in for maybe 2 days. So pricing is going to be a key factor. And yes, it's very relative. And I think every company will follow its own policy. But I think, you need to experiment with pricing. I'm just going to give you a little tip over here. There's this beautiful hotel called Marino Beach Resort in Colombo, and they're 300-room beautiful property. During the Easter Sundays, I think Sri Lanka was facing a challenge for occupancy, and they were the first ones in the market to bounce back. And I think .com and STR will agree to that. They actually, even when the markets were picking up, they were already there. So do experiment with pricing. I think that will really help you to bounce back faster. Stay flexible, and your ability to be flexible in terms of cancellation policies, in terms of payment terms, in terms of even add-ons. I think it will really help. And the key factor is you want to upsell, not upset the customer. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to give you a few examples here. Rosette is a customer, and they already have very flexible policies in early check-ins, late checkouts, laundry systems, Akron Waterfront. Dr. Joseph Vito, I think he's a darling, and I happened to speak to a customer. This is before pre-COVID. He said, "I just love the hotel because their buffets go on till 1 o'clock." So I mean, there are many things that you can do to keep yourself flexible. I think there's lots that you can do. Be creative. I think creativity is going to play a very important part over here. We have a hotel group from Amaya Group and the Kingsbury. They're all owned by the same people. They just launched a campaign, Book Now, Travel Whenever. I think they did around 6 crores worth of business in 10 days. And they pre-sold their experiences. So that's one. Our friend Nuria Hometel, they are sending a chef for the chef experience. I think you will hear some more about, what is going to come from the travel couple. But I think you can be creative and you can add experiences to your guest line. This is a time to, push your comfort zone and, come out with something different that the market would like. I think there's nothing better than a loyal customer, right? And this is time to encash on him. So go back to your database, start calling up your customers, get them in, creative, be flexible with your plans, come out with schemes. And speaking of that, I'm going to, also share with you 2 positive examples, because now that Vidhi and Virendra have added air of positivity to this, I think it's only fair that, I also add a little bit of positivity to this. So here is Ash, and Ash is, he represents 2 hotels in New Zealand for us, and he heads them, and he took our gift voucher engine, and of course he sold more than 5,000 New Zealand dollars worth. And then on Mother's Day, again, he sold 10,000 worth of New Zealand dollars plus with a gift voucher. So you can, get in revenue, you can create revenue even in COVID. These are live examples. This is Thomas from Evolve Back, and he did a fantastic job, when getting in pre-selling his experience. So I think you can do the same. I think it won't work for everybody, but if you have a good customer database, if you have a good experience in your good experience properties, I think you can encash it right now. So, I'll just sum it up. I think I've been quick enough, below 5 minutes. reach out to your customers. There's nothing more better to do that. Keep positive. I think there is nothing else to do but watch and wait and be creative. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rajesh. On time, perfectly. So really appreciate that. So some really good pointers there. I think that we can take back on certainly the gift voucher aspect. I think a lot of them are trying that. And as you highlighted, the most important thing is to have a good experience to offer and have a good customer base, right? And this is where I think technology really helps, because if you don't have a good system running at your property, then you don't have that access to the customer base, right? And that is where I suppose a lot of our hotels that we were dealing with also, keeping in touch with their customers, sending them emails, keeping that constant contact with them. So on that note, we will start now panel discussion aspect of things with the hotels. And we really appreciate the insights from STR, Booking.com, and Star. I think they really set the mood or the scene for us. And it's good to hear some positiveness coming out of it too. So it's not always doom and gloom. So for the panel discussion, obviously the most important thing that I wanted to note was that we wanted to invite a travel blogging couple, so that we could see, I suppose, and learn from their experiences, their expectations, what we would want to expect from a guest as they're traveling. So before I bring them on, we have a quick poll that we'd actually like to get your input on. So this will be to set the stage for them. So please, if you could just choose an option through the polling. Essentially what we're looking at is, the first destination that you would travel to, once the restrictions are lifted. What would you do? Where would you go? And we'd love to have your feedback, because this really will help set the stage for that discussion from Rishabh and Nirali as well. So we'll just wait a few more seconds. So while we're waiting, please send your questions through the chat box. We haven't seen any questions so far, but the whole purpose of doing this is for us to hear your questions. It's no point us talking about things and between ourselves and pre-planning things, but we'd love to hear your questions so that we can answer your questions. And I'm sure there will be plenty of them. So please post your questions through the chat box. So just to close the poll, very interestingly, I guess the number one contender is a weekend getaway by car. So over to you, Rishabh and Nirali. So what I really want to sort of identify from you is with so many properties, advocating hygiene standards and sanitized stays, all, along the similar pricing as far as, I guess, destinations are concerned. Travelers really look at influencers like you, both to help guide them in choosing the right place, right? So as a travel blogging couple, when you get out, what are you going to be looking for, when you're actually booking your first stay? So please give us some thoughts on that. Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Praveen. Hello, everyone. We are the gypsy couple, Rishabh and Nirali. To answer you, both of us will share our thoughts individually and collectively to give you a more wholesome perspective. To start with, when traveling in the new normal, our focus as a couple would be more towards slow travel rather than moving around frequently. Even there, the focus would be more on hotels or properties per se, rather than the destination. Our point of considerations would be hotels having more in-house facilities, wellness-focused activities, and possibly more private access to spaces like beaches, orchards, mountain trails, lakes, etc., which would allow us to explore the destination without accessing the public spaces. When talking about from a women's perspective, there are certain things I would definitely want to see more of. Your spa and wellness services offered by the hotels, the added parlor services for longer stays, private setup for meals, live cooking sessions by the chefs. Such experiences within the premise of the property is something I will consider before booking my stay. Another key decision maker for us is strong communication. Here I talk about the messages, posts, engagements a hotel has put up on its online forum. Basically, any effort the hotel has made to communicate with the potential or the past guests. How strongly have they connected with their target audience? Have they posted anything showcasing how are they welcoming their guests during the pandemic? How well are they communicating with the guests to assure and reassure their trust? Have they reached out to the past guests in a way of a newsletter or a mailer? Customer testimonials, especially the recent ones after which, the pandemic and everything has opened up. will help us a lot to decide. And now over to Rishabh for his perspective.
Thanks, Nirali. What I really wanted to discuss or take it forward is, Nirali shared both our views as well as her view as a female. For me personally, this is a part of the thing that I handle when we travel together as well, which is logistics. When I say talk about logistics, it's about getting to a particular place, how much time it's going to take, the mode of travel, so on and so forth. As many of you rightly shared in the poll, a weekend getaway or a getaway by car is actually what we will be looking for, at least in the short term as well. Because we're not comfortable right now traveling through trains or flights or other modes of transport. So that brings a very important question when it comes to to booking whichever hotel that we book. How far is the hotel, how far is the destination from our current base? Is something is driving down possible in a matter of hours? Do they allow parking spaces? Do they offer a pickup and drop service for guests in a nearby city? All of this will matter when we select which hotel or destination we want to go to. Another important aspect, because our category of travel is leisure travel, is that we won't be really focusing on city center travels, or at least for bigger cities, bigger tourist destinations as well, at least for now. Because what we want to avoid at this point of time is a lot of public exposure. So when we move to a destination which is more touristy, where we have to access more public spaces, if it's a city center hotel, how do we really look at it that way? So I would rather, or we would rather want to go for a more a hotel which is away from the city center, maybe in the outskirts of a bigger city, or in a tier 2 city, or away from a boutique hotel in the rural area. So that is another kind of priority that we will be focusing on. So single destination hotels, resorts, or maybe a city center hotel which will have no walk-ins for their restaurants. So at least that gives you that level of safety. If someone is opting for a staycation, suppose. So priorities also is something which will change while deciding our preferences. So swimming pools, we do not really consider swimming pool to be a core priority, because we look for more sustainability, more responsible luxury travel, where swimming pool does affect it in terms of water conservation and so on and so forth. But swimming pools goes directly down to the bottom of our priority list currently. So would buffets, so would any sort of in-house facilities that a hotel might offer, which would include a large gathering of people. To end, our what we want to share, we would like to focus a bit on the booking process as well. So for us, a communication directly with the hotel would be something we would be focusing on, because there'll be certain questions that only the hotel themselves will be able to answer to allay our concerns. So this could range from something as little as whether the hotel or the region is open for travel from outside the city. So if I'm traveling from or from another state, so if I'm traveling from, say, Gujarat to Rajasthan, maybe it's a distance of just 3 to 4 hours, but whether a cross-state kind of a transportation is kind of available for the guest is something I would like to hear directly from the hotel. Whether the hotel is open, whether certain services are available, what are they doing, to allay our safety concerns, is something we will have to really focus on. So those are the things. So maybe we would, talk first with the hotel to allay those concerns, and then might book our hotel finally with an OTA because maybe we are more comfortable booking out there, or maybe the rates are better. But that is something which will remain a priority. So direct conversation with the hotel is something is always going to remain a priority, at least for the coming future. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. Over to you, Praveen.
Yeah, thanks, Rishabh, and both of you, Nirali, as well. I think it's great that you've given us some points to actually set the tone, really, because from what you're saying, you really need something completely personalized, and that was something that Biren spoke about as well, providing that personalized experience, essentially, right? And having those private spaces made available for everyone, right? So for you guys, so that you don't have to share with others, right? And good input. I think certainly I'm sure the other panelists will also share their thoughts as they go along. So my next question is really to Suhail from Concept. So while we actually, before we answer that, we have a quick poll as well, which will actually help him as well answer his question. So we'll load the poll now. So really, I guess with the focus on self-reliance by our PM, would Indian owners, and obviously this is something that is quite interesting to know, would they be interested in tying up with local brands as opposed to international brands? So what are your thoughts on this, which will really help, I guess, set the tone as well for the discussion? Or will it just be a matter of, it doesn't really matter what the brand is, right? So
no, we cannot.
So interesting feedback there. So we'll just wait a couple more seconds. So certainly it's a mixed bag. Looks like yes, mainly, which is a good sign for all the domestic chains and brands. But there's a certain percentage which are still not sure. So Suhail, so I'd like to ask you, Concept has really had a massive pipeline as far as new hotels are concerned. And given that guest traction and demand has really forecasted, to take up to 2023 to recover as per what STRS has shown us, as well as, general consensus. How do you think groups really need to tread cautiously without overcommitting themselves beyond what their capabilities are? So I'll let you answer that, Suhail.
Thank you, Praveen, and thanks for having me on the show. Just a quick introduction. I'm Suhail Kanampally. I am the CEO of Concept Hospitality. We basically operate hotels under three main brands, which is the Fern. Fern is broken up into 5-star Fern, 4-star is Fern Residencies. We also have a Beacon, which handles our economy segment, and we've just launched a new brand called Zinc, which is targeted to the lifestyle hotels. Right now, if I can break up your question actually into 3 parts. One is you want a bit of an outlook in terms of where we stand in the recovery. Second is what's the group pipeline and how we're seeing the third point in terms of the way ahead. Right now, if I can get to the first one, which is on the recovery, I am a little more optimistic. I can't help but be a little more optimistic in terms of the recovery period. I feel that the demand that is there in the market is being artificially subdued by 2 main factors. One is travel restrictions and 2 is fear. If we were to figure out a way to mitigate either one of these factors, I'm not saying both factors because it's going to be very difficult for us to hit both the factors together. But if we were to, at least handle one of them, the fear can be handled through vaccine. The travel restriction is obviously governmental. If we were to reduce one of these factors, we would see and spark a revival in the industry. Right now, it's just limping along. In terms of the industry overlook completely, we are a long-term industry, and that is something that hasn't changed, and it's not going to change. So in the long term, there's definitely a very good prospect for the hospitality industry as a whole. As Vidhi mentioned also, the supply coming into the market is relatively static. Apart from that, with this issue, we will see a decrease, in my opinion, in the supply that's coming in. But demand at some point will start picking up. And I think the 3-year horizon is a little long. I definitely see a recovery happening within a year and a half from now. Okay. In terms of the short term, that's the real question as to what we're going to do in the short term. And I don't really think anyone has an answer for the short term per se. The only real support in the short term is at some point, some form of governmental assistance is essential for short-term survival of the industry. Okay, now if I get to the second question in terms of the group pipeline, so we've opened 4 hotels that were scheduled to open in March, obviously not to the fanfare that we would have liked to open them to. Okay. But in the last month, we've actually signed 3 new contracts for upcoming hotels, which is a good sign. I mean, rebranding and upcoming is something that is definitely catching on. Okay. In terms of where we stand with our current hotels occupancy level, so when we reopened in June, we started at about an 8% occupancy in the first week that we reopened. That occupancy level has now reached the 30% and is climbing, but really not at the pace that we would have liked it to climb. F&B business per se is almost at it's the one that's really been hit hard because of restrictions towards banqueting. I think the 50 pax banquet hall judgment really needs to factor size of halls, and that's really not something that has been thought of completely. Okay, now in terms of the way ahead and what I see in terms of the industry way ahead and what our company way ahead is going to be. So as I mentioned, the question is short-term survival, right? And in this short-term survival, we're going to see a lot of distressed assets in the market. So if you've got the capital as an industry veteran, then it is the best time to be looking at acquisitions of properties. But if you don't have the capital, then your best option right now is to conserve cash flow, cut down on your costs, get into a hibernation mode if necessary. But that's really the only option that you have if you don't have the cash flow to go and expand your business currently. The other option that a lot of hotels are looking at, and which I touched on a little earlier, is tying up with a chain, and this effectively has 3 benefits. Okay, number 1 is you get the distribution support from tying up with any chain. Okay, the number 2 benefit is that you can get some form of operational support, which is essential today because what's happening is that a lot of the staff and team members, they've gone back to their domicile cities, and getting them back is really not something that's going to be possible in the short term. So you need that operational support comes in when you have a chain that has this kind of reach across. And the third, which is the most important factor, is a trust factor with the traveler. Now, all of the brands have, as mentioned in all the previous calls, some loyalty factor, right? And they have some trust factors that are created with their travelers. So this is essential, and it's something that gives you that additional benefit apart from the distribution. Now, there are 3 main ways that hotels really tie up with, individual hotel owners can really tie up with the brand. There's a franchise route, which gives effectively the owner complete control on what he needs to do, okay, in the hotel, and just takes the distribution support, but he won't get the operational support from the company. The second route is a management contract, and this actually has become the most preferred route currently for both the brands as well as the hotel owners, because it gives them the support in terms of the operation, gives them the distribution support. And the scenario today is that most brands are going to be flexible in terms of their terms for the reason that they understand owners are going through a lot of trouble. So that flexibility will come in today, which may not be there tomorrow. And the third way, which actually has been a little redundant currently, is on the franchise route, on the lease and revenue share route. Very few companies currently looking at that. So it will become the least attractive route in the short term. That's it from me, Praveen. I mean, back to you. And thanks.
Yeah, that's great, Suhail. Thanks for explaining all of that as well. Which you think would be the best options as well for, I guess, independents looking for options, right? Which is something that we discussed in some of our earlier sessions also, and that was raised by other members of the panel. So I really appreciate your input and guidance on that. So just to quickly move on to the next ones, I want to get through some of these, and we got some questions coming in through the chat. So please feel free to send more questions through the chat. The more we get, the better, and the more we can answer what concerns that you have. So the next one up is Sarbendra from Signet. So we'll just go into a quick poll there because we're going to talk about a smart hotel. So keen to know some input from our audience there. So what do you guys think guests will probably need the most in a smart hotel. Will they need a smart room? Will they need, guest service for robots? Will they need an experience that is contactless? So from what I can see, obviously smart rooms are important, not being able to touch anything in the room. But certainly the aspect of having a completely seamless contactless experience by far it seems to be the thing of choice. So Sabendra, in most of your interviews, you always advocated Signet as being a smart hotel. So please share your thoughts on the concepts of a smart hotel and what I guess Signet will be doing to attract greater guest patronage during these current new normal times. Over to you.
Thank you, Praveen, for having me in this webinar. Hi, my name is Sarbendra Sarkar. I'm the founder and managing director of Signet Hotels and Resorts. So, the smart hotel. Before I give some positive, aspect, there is we are talking of the leisure destination that obviously dive down is going to be open fast. That's agree. But our industry depends on the other industry. Like I was talking with one of the Hindustan River. So see how they are divided, because their movement, if it is not started, our business hotel is not going to be picked up. So our completely business is depend the other industry, how is going to movement start and flight. So this pandemic has affected industry across the all spectrum, as large, but the hospitality is the worst. But however, I believe there is a Indian domestic travelers will lift up the Indian hospitality industry. So that's my thought and I believe. Now talk about the smart hotel. The essentially smart hotel is a hotel which makes use of internet connected device which are capable of communicate and interacting to one another. So this is something referred to the IoT, Internet of Things, play a major role. We should be prioritize this turning into the all hotel room with a smart hotel room. It can significantly improve the customer experience. And not only that, it makes the easier for the staff, the easier life of the employee and save the operational cost also. Some more benefit if we look into it's improve the level of personalization, is data-driven decision making. When you want to, your maintenance and repair will take place annual. So that data you will get from this, this smart hotel can give you from this device all data available. Now, it won't be wrong if I say that technology is the core enable effort, in this era. Is either maybe hotel product or service. Smart hotel will be the next big thing now. So technology blend enable any company with the warm hospitality. It will be dynamic overall guest satisfaction, such as their likelihood of returning to the hotel and recommending to the hotel to the others. So hotel can be monitored even when during the property guest is around. He can track the guest, he can customize this experience and the guest solution. So guest satisfaction level will be in the different level if you have the smart hotel or the smart application you have. The Signet understand the need of the customer and trying to fulfill those needs by using technology. So we are trying to leverage technology to gain the customer trust, and we would be provide paramount hygiene standard. So this is the all about. It's not a very expensive. When we look for a smart hotel, it's not very, very expensive, but it's not. But it will be long run, a lot of cost saving, and the manpower, is going to be in India is also getting manpower is expensive. So smart hotel is always help to the investor, help to the operational point of view. That will be the future, what I believe. Robin.
Oh, that's some great input. Certainly, like a fully connected hotel is really something. Yeah. I suppose we're all going to look forward to coming down the track, right? Where everything is connected using IoT in the rooms, everything's being monitored, temperatures automatically going up and down, to save power. So I suppose these are certainly initiatives that are coming up, and more so now, I guess, after this current pandemic situation where everyone's more conscious of those things, right? So thank you so much. Really appreciate your input on that. So we'll quickly move on to Nikhil from Atmantan. This is a wellness resort. So we have a quick poll for for all of you to actually give us some input. So what do you think about wellness? Do you think this will be a big driver? Obviously, Nirali mentioned that this is one of the top things on her list, when she travels out. So what does everyone else think? And, it's one thing that all of us have really gotten acclimated to while we've spent time in isolation, right? Looking after ourselves a lot better. So certainly it's good to see that it's an overwhelmingly positive response towards yes. So certainly that is one thing that will, I guess most guests will be looking to as they come out, right, Nikhil? So Atmantan has really advocated a health and wellness first approach as far as its operations to educate guests on both the inner and outer being on how well they can look after themselves. So what are your thoughts and strategies that hotels can sort of take to advocate wellness as part of their guest air strategy? Over to you.
Thanks, Praveen, and namaste to everybody. When we conceptualized Atmantan, we were seeing a big shift in travel preferences at that point of time. And we realized that people were getting more mindful about where they want to spend their holidays and how they want to spend their holidays. And, we were observing that holidays of excess, that is excess food, excess alcohol, excess partying, were giving way to holidays which are referred to as health holidays and healing holidays. With the COVID pandemic, what has happened is that this entire shift has only got accelerated. And that is why I speak, with a lot of conviction, and I will share this with all the hoteliers on this webinar, that adding wellness experiences to your offering is required, and it is not only a timely but also a timeless part of your strategy with the way things are today. I'd like to share a few things with you, a little about Atmantan. Atmantan is our maiden venture. We are in our 5th year of operations. We are a 100-room luxury wellness center. And we aspire to go through, by managing other properties as well. And we're getting a good amount of opportunities by standalone properties today who want to, differentiate. So number one, why should somebody consider wellness? And my key reasons for that would be, number one, it helps you differentiate your project, especially if you're in overcrowded destinations. Adding wellness offerings is a fabulous way of differentiating your product. The customers will love to see this kind of value. So that is number one. Number two, when you add these kind of meaningful experiences, your chances of retaining a client is also high. So that's your second reason for doing it. Thirdly, a property which has thought through their wellness offering, stands to gain with the advantage of long stay guests as well as a higher revenue. So those were some of my reasons as to why hotel owners should consider adding wellness. A little about Atmantan, some more facts about Atmantan. Our business is essentially a B2C kind of a business. So 80% of our clients are people who are looking for, are individuals who are looking for, health programs. The average stay of the domestic consumer at our property is 7.3 nights. And the average stay of an international traveler is closer to 11 nights. Now, what is the kind of wellness and what are the kind of options which, the people who are on this call can consider? I wanted to share with you that, wellness is a very vast subject. It's a vast playing field. Atmantan operates in the segment of, you can say, serious wellness hospitality, but that is not really the model which everybody needs to go for. You see, when it comes to creating value, you need to see what is it that can fit into your current scheme of things and what can appeal to your clients. I also want to share with you that, in the last 4 months, I personally spoke to our top 100 clients, this was done with the perspective of really understanding how is COVID impacting their business, their life, and also to take their inputs on how it could impact their travel preferences. And the feedback which we got was fabulous, Praveen. All these people have a stronger resolve to do more for their health today, and they have a stronger resolve to travel for their health as well. Not only this, but as we resumed operations a few weeks back, and we are currently open to only people traveling in their private car from within Maharashtra, we've noticed that a lot of people from some of the smaller metros of Maharashtra, these are first-time travelers, who are making inquiries and trying to figure out that, hey, how can I get stronger if I come to your property? What can I do about my immunity? What is a detox? So there is tremendous amount of interest which is generated. Unfortunately, we had to see a pandemic for this interest, but there is a tremendous awareness as far as health and well-being of the individuals is concerned. Some of the thoughts which I can leave behind is all hoteliers who would like to pursue this, I think, should engage themselves with experts, to figure out how they can introduce wellness into their business model. For business hotels, it could be introducing sleep counselors and doing something around sleep or stress. For other properties, it could be about managing your gut health and digestive issues. So you can have lighter introductory programs as a first step, as you want to create more traction with your clients. I'm just going to conclude by just reiterating what Rishabh and Nirali shared, that the focus is going to be the destination, and if that's the case, then the focus is going to be the resort, not the destination. And if that's the case, then the hotels have to add tremendous value. You see, then you need to step up your value. And number two, I also just want to share with you a quick thing which we have done at Atmantan. Wellness resorts are sometimes perceived to be expensive, and that is also because we bundle our services and we sell it. In today's time of a price-conscious, consumer, what we are also trying to do is we're trying to unbundle some of the services to, meet a lower price point. I think I've got my, I think my time is up, but I would love to catch up with you in the Q&A. And thanks once again.
Thank you very much, Nikhil. I think you made a really interesting point there that no matter, I suppose, what the segment, be it corporate or leisure, there's always place for wellness, right? And I think that is something that really resonates well with everybody who's here, because definitely the corporate travelers will also be looking at some sort of a wellness aspect of things, right? And a sleep type program, things like that, which will help you. This is really interesting stuff. So look forward to, I guess I'm sure you'll have some questions. So look forward to having your questions, the questions answered as well in the Q&A. So before we head off to the Q&A and the networking, we have, last but not least, Rupam from Radha Hotels. So we'll have a quick poll just to get some thoughts from you guys. So it's really on the conferences and banquets. Now, this is something that obviously all of us think a lot about. Is it something that will get back? Will it ever come back? At what stage will it come back? So many questions, right? And when it does come back, how are we going to be reacting to this? How are the hotels going to be reacting to this? So it is looks like 50-50 almost, whether it will or will not come back. Slightly more weighted towards yes, but that's an interesting results from the participants there. So Rupam, there are times when hotels and conferences were sort of pre-booked years in advance for some locations. And this was by far one of the largest revenue generators for a lot of the corporate segment hotels and some leisure segment too, and particularly for Radha Hotels. So what do you think these hotels need to do to sort of bring this business back, and what are your thoughts on this? So I'll let you share your thoughts. Over to you.
Thank you, Praveen. Thank you very much. To all the viewers, my name is Rupam Datta. I'm the General Manager for Feathers Hotel, Chennai. We run 4 hotels between 2 states, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, 2 hotels in Bangalore and 2 hotels in Chennai. Both our hotels in Bangalore are corporate hotels with limited event space, a lot of room. But yes, the Electronic City Hotel has got large space for event selling. And Chennai had 2 units here. Feathers is the largest, and also the other unit of Radha, which is also fairly busy with social events as well as corporate. So I'll tell you what, I will not go back what we heard from the other panelists and the discussions, and overall, whatever from the global market, what we hear. Conferencing is not going to be going back. It's not going to be over, because any country that is growing up in industry and business can never do away with conferencing. Travel will be there, conferencing will be there. So what is, we looked at working ourselves rather than just being worrying about how the pandemic has affected our business. Yes, of course, we have to take that in our stride and move forward. So the last 2 months has been very, very productive for us in terms of thought process. So there are two elements that we looked at. We looked at safety as well as sustainability. These are the two areas that we looked at, positioning ourselves going forward in the future. So we partnered with two very key, we got two good associates who will be working on the corporate segment as well as the social areas. We partnered with iConcepts, Delhi-based event company, and also Atulya Wedding, which is very, very popular in Chennai, and also they do destination weddings. So these are the people who will be, the idea is to do with them that how hard we can push and how do you bring in the concept of sustainable events and wedding, So if you look at the property, so the first thing was to bring in the concept. Second thing is partnership. We have to work on, hotel cannot be just looking at the unit support only. You need to have a lot of partner to work on the events and the weddings and all. So designing new event style and wedding style is something that we have taken as a priority. Work on implementing them. That's the third stage that gets in. So creating the advantages, what we are likely to now bring in. So events, what we have gathered that one of the major thing will be a space, managing your space, how well you design your events. That is what is going to be a key elements of selling events. Exclusive movements, which means hotels with exclusive events entry and exit point will have an advantage, which means you are not going to mix your the restaurant diners and the room guests with your large events. So Feathers has the advantage on it. I'm sure a lot of hotels with large event space will have this. So this is going to be one of our key elements when we are positioning ourselves as unique conferencing venue. So then we move into the space planning and so how we are doing, we're not waiting for the corporates to come back or the social guests to come back and make inquiries. We're going to present to them. So first thing involving the technology, we're looking at a 3D walkthrough for our conferencing facilities. So which means you may not have a time to for a panel or for a group of people, a procurement team from different companies to come and visit your hotel. Probably you will have a virtual presentations going on from your office. I mean, rebuilding the trust is very, very important. So how well you're equipped, that will make a lot of difference. So Guru have run through this 3D walkthrough of your event space and let them exactly know how the sitting is going to be, how's your entry going to be, if there is an emergency, how's the flow going to be. You cannot have a crisscross movements. We are doing away with our buffet. We would not like to have the conferencing style will change. We are preparing a very well documented, designed events, document we are designing. So that will have no buffet. You have an all-day meal options, which means if you have a big events going on, first of all, the registration process till the conclude of the evening. So we have to also ensure that the day's events, earlier it used to be starting from 9 o'clock till about 5 o'clock. So we are trying to work out that reduce the timing because we do not want a participant or a large number of participants to be sitting in a hall for that long. So we're working on our air conditioning. We're looking at a free flow of fresh air. We're also looking at a lot of open space for your breaks. So the breaks are going to be, going from earlier it was a typically 2 break conference. So we're going to have multiple breaks, which will be having a 4 minimum breaks. So that will allow the crowd to be not sitting for a long time in one space and take a break in open areas. We'll be opening up our open areas. We have terrace, we have other areas which are open. Those areas will be available for your breaks. So you have a lot of inputs of fresh air. The food menu is not going to be your buffet style. It's going to be, again, a biodegradable tray, which will have a pre-plated menu, which will be kept hot and kept in a space. So you're also ensuring that earlier, the customer demand is to be a lot of number of people and, in the service. So we are now presenting it in our appeal that please do not look at having a lot of people in the service. We will be fully prepared to have that. You do not have to ask for anything. Everything is ready in front of you. So the beverage counters is all day. And you have a snack counter, which is also refreshment counters are throughout the day open. We'll just keep refilling them. And the buffets are going off. We'll have a hot case. We'll have displays, which will have your biodegradable trays are all placed there with cover, with lead. Your menu is fixed, so you can just pick up. And you have a flexi meal plan. Like you can come out. I mean, we're also going to have a pre-functions to have LED display where you don't miss your presentation. You can take your break. If you feel that you want to come out of the hall and have your meal. So we're also going to tell you that, you know, instead of having just a meal break of 1 hour, don't take it. If somebody wants to have it afterwards, he can do it because he doesn't want to join the crowd. He wants to be exclusively coming out and picking up his meal. You can do that also. So these are the new things that we are bringing in our conferencing. It's a huge detailing, so I may not be able to do it. You give me 5 minutes, so I may not be able to touch them. Now the wedding is again something that we have done with Atulya Wedding. We've done a detailed discussion and they're really, really unique. Starting from your events invitation, to the food that we give, including the food that will come is organic. And so your wastage that gets in, the garbage disposal that's coming in, we'll be picking up, we'll be having vendors who will be supplying organic food. We will line them up. We will have them, you know, into our systems. So the plate, fruit, everything that is there is all reusable. So you do not generate a huge garbage for our wedding. So because we have realized one thing in the last 4 months, we haven't, till the time the lockdown was there, the inquiries were limited over phone. But you started seeing people are coming into our hotels and doing inquiries. In fact, we got lined up events for the month of November, December, January, all of them. So I don't see, you know, with these two things, as I said, that once these detailings are done in place, hotels, conferencing and banquets will never be a problem, and we will come back. But what is required to do is that you got to really present well. You got to ensure that the earlier food is taking the main discussion. That not be case. You cannot have a discussions of events in 10 minutes time. You do a deal of 20 lakhs. It's not going to happen. You got to have a very clear cut presentations on your safety as well as hygiene aspects, and also the protocols that you maintain. So there will be a briefing sent to you, a video will be played that what are the facilities of the hotel and how we are going to run the entire day's event. So that's going to be our way of selling conferencing and banquets. So that's what from me, Praveen. So the wedding and conferencing with this new concept, we are very, very hopeful, and we are doing conversations with our existing clients and people who have done business with us, and we're finding a lot of good response from them.
Well, that's a lot of work that's gone behind that. So it's pretty evident that, you know, conferences and banqueting won't operate the same way that they always have, right? There's a lot that has to change. And you highlighted so much that has really, you know, gone through the works, right? Of you getting things ready, you know, separate entrance and exits, 3D walkthrough. I mean, did you ever think that, you know, hotels in India will be doing a 3D walkthrough of conferencing facilities this year? No way. Right. So much has changed, right, this year. Absolutely. And yeah, and it's very interesting to get your perspectives. Unfortunately, it looks like we are all almost out of time. Now, I have a few questions here from the audience. I think about 5 or 6 questions, some very specific to you guys. So I might ask 1 or 2, and then we'll just do the networking session for 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. Yep. So the first one was to Rishabh and Nirali, the travel blogger couple. What do you do when the tourist spots are all closed, and will continue to do so for some time? And then it goes on to say, why are places like Lonavala and Goa still have not shown traction? So I think just like to hear your view on this. I mean, when you go out, do you actually look at tourist locations to go and visit, or is it something that you wouldn't be even looking at this point? So this came from Rakesh. So I'll let you answer that quickly.
Okay, so usually that the tourist locations would be a highlight, but what happens right now is that we would like to avoid public spaces in general. I think that's what Nirali mentioned, you know, when we're sharing our answer as well. We would like to focus more on the hotel and possibly, you know, by extension, the private spaces or access that the hotel might allow. So if it's you know, a mountain retreat or hill retreat, or a beach which is nearby, then we would like to focus on that and really not go to a public beach. You know, a private beach would be more preferable. If it's a mountain, then a mountain trail would be more preferable than, you know, going to the nearest village or a town.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, I guess the tourist locations and the availability of them are not really going to be a factor when, yes, I guess you pick a visit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a good one. So that was something that I think a lot of hoteliers had asked, because the tourist locations or destinations or the specific things are closed, will tourists still come to see us? But that's a good answer to the question. So I had another one here for Suhail. For the hotels, the main cost in a hotel is the HR or the human resources. So what are you doing it's an interesting question. What are you doing to cut the cost of human resources in your hotels?
So that's a difficult one. And I think that's the one that impacts lives the most. So what we've tried, we went into this pandemic thinking that we're not going to lose no one's going to lose their jobs. We're going to try and give everyone full salaries. But that quickly changed once it got extended. We have not tried to reduce too many people, but we have looked at people taking leave without pay. And so some kind of furlough has been done across different hotels, and also a reduction in salaries. So people working in the hotels, they have had to take a significant reduction in the salaries, but it's purely dependent on how the hotels are performing. So some hotels that are doing well, those employees are still being able to take their whole salary home.
That's good to hear. And I mean, someone asked me in another webinar that I was a part of that being a tech company, do you guys actually get out to the restaurants? And this week I actually called some restaurants to see if I can actually go for a meal. But majority of them said, I'm sorry, we're closed. We don't have any staff available to run the facility, right? So I think that is going to be a massive issue for hotels and restaurants, the F&B sector as a whole, to reopen things again because it's been shut down for so long. So it's interesting to note. So we have quite a number of other questions. So what I'll do is I will filter them out and I'll send them across to each of you independently, if you don't mind, and then I can channel that back to whoever asked the question. So thank you very much, everyone, for being a part of this. Now, before we break up, I'd love for you guys to actually make use of our breakout rooms feature. There's something that I said in the beginning that we do at the end of the session for about 5 minutes. So it's just really what will happen now is one of my colleagues who's running the show right now will assign you all into breakout rooms. So what that means is you'll leave the main room and you'll get a notification that'll pop up to say join breakout room. And inside the breakout room, you may have 3 or 4